Welcome to High Ground. My name is Tanner, and today we're going to be talking about the roster changes in Brazil. So I did this for Europe, I did this for North America. I don't think I'm going to be doing this for APAC because I have the least grasp over that region of all of the regions. And to be honest here, I don't know. I know the teams roughly in Brazil, especially the ones that go to majors, but I'm not like super well versed in, well, anything beyond T1, and so maybe some of this stuff I'll just be telling you guys, and I'll give my opinions where I can. So also, I believe this just came out like yesterday or the day before or something. I think they announced that there will no longer be promotion and relegation anywhere in the LATAM system. So we'll see how that affects things going forward. I think some people think it's going to be a good thing in the end, and some people are questioning it. We'll have to see how it affects them, and also how it affects the T1 and T2 landscape for Siege in general. Will that change be coming to other regions? It's been rumored to be happening for NA at some point, but it hasn't been confirmed, and then so we'll see even how it affects EU and APAC and whatnot. But okay, let's talk about the roster changes here. So the same teams except for one new org picking up one of the other teams. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's just go down the line. So first up is Black Dragons, and I think I know all of the changes, and I mean, I guess I can just refer to this if not, but so hopefully I don't miss any. I don't think Black Dragons are actually making a change. And I do have the stage 2 thing on open on my other monitor. Let me just absolutely double check. Yeah, no change coming out for Black Dragons. Same thing for FaZe. Same thing for NIP. So nothing to really talk about there. Not a ton of changes in LATAM, especially compared to how many there were in NA. Quite a few in Europe as well. So the first change, and one of the big ones, Lagonis going to Team Liquid, replacing PSK. So we'll see how their roles work out and stuff. I suppose some of these players are a little bit flexible. Maybe some things will happen. I suppose Lagonis, I guess I don't remember 100%. Was he playing hard support on Team 1? He was on Team 1 before this. Or was he playing something a little bit different? My understanding is it was their IGL and probably will be their IGL now. And so is this going to change up Ask's roles a little bit? Will somebody be more so taking over PSK's role? Will Lagonis sort of be going on PSK's role, which was generally like flank watch on attack? So we'll have to see, but very exciting pickup. Lagonis is in fact a major champion, won the Mexico major along with Alamau, KDS. Where's the roster at? It's not Team 1 anymore. Where? Oh yeah, they're on Double O Nation. Levy and Neskin was the 5-man roster, but Alamau over in Europe, 3 of the other of the members from Team 1 at that time on Double O Nation, OO Nation, 00 Nation, however you say this org's name. But Lagonis going over here, and I think it's very, very exciting addition. For the longest time, people have always expected whenever Liquid goes to events, well, expecting them to make it to most events, and then when they go to events, for them to go deep and well, often they are said to be the favorites, and I think this is probably true even more so now. PSK was certainly the weakest link on the roster, and Lagonis, I think, just a phenomenal player. So let's see how he turns this roster around. Maybe he can turn them from, it certainly wasn't a bad roster. They would generally make it to events and make it out of groups and maybe even make deep runs, but they haven't won anything since a Pro League Finals way back when. The only player still on this roster now is Nesk, and I think PSK was on it at the time, but okay, Nesk now the only player from that roster. And yeah, I guess if there was ever a time to expect Liquid to need to win or else be left in the dust historically, maybe this is the time. Yeah, if they don't get a trophy in the next year, well, I mean, that sucks. They probably should have, right? Just look at the talent on this roster. Okay, yeah, Tropic House, I assume, is how similar, close to how that's said, but picking up the INTZ roster, also a couple of roster changes coming out. So Vitz going over to the coaching role was on the roster at last stage, and Drunks and Zach and I think it's PPWS are the 2 remaining. Let me actually double check because these names are just insane. Yeah, they had Hornetow and they had Vitz on the playing roster before. And again, Vitz going over to the coaching position, and they're adding Cons and Yechts. So always insane names on the INTZ roster. Now Tropic House, INTZ lineage. Yeah, just crazy looking names. And so we'll see how they do. I mean, certainly not a roster that has been going to majors or anything. Usually going to majors is, Furia, FaZe, NIP, W7M, a little bit of Team 1. MIBR like never goes, even though they go to the 6th Invitational and do pretty well, but they just for some reason don't go to majors. And yeah, so I guess as far as like the bottom tier teams that never really go to events, there's Tropic House, Double O Nation, and Black Dragons. So we'll see if anyone can rise up. And also, I don't know. Okay, well, I guess we're going to talk about Team 1. So, yeah, it might be our no changes, so let us talk about Team 1. Yeah, they lost Lagonis, and they're bringing in Lobin. So, we'll see how this plays out. I imagine Lagonis was a pretty important part of the roster. He was the one player that remained on this roster, with Alamau going over to G2 and the other 3 players going over to Double O Nation. And he took the roster to playoffs in Charlotte, and to be fair, probably they wouldn't have made it if Elevate was there. Certainly a crippled group. They only had to make it past, I don't even remember which. It was a different APAC team who were not impressive, and they barely made it to the playoffs, I suppose. And they did win, I think, map 1 against Dark Zero, and then they lost the other 2 maps. So they did go map 3. They were somewhat competitive. And so, I mean, I think there is talent on this roster. I think LATAM has a lot of talent, and it's pretty top heavy at the moment. FaZe Clan, probably the best team in LATAM at the moment, and on average, you might even call them the best team in the world. They were the runners-up in the most recent major, of course, 1 round away from actually winning it. And had they won it, they would be the only 2-time major champion team. I suppose Kanto Ricchetti is technically a 2-time major champion, but as far as rosters go, yeah, the full 5-man FaZe Clan could have been repeat winners, and because they won in Sweden, they could have won in Berlin, and not too far away, also in Europe, I guess. And okay, yeah, so that's Team 1, Lobin in for Lagonis, and we'll have to see how this one plays out. I feel like it's hard to replace Lagonis. Maybe it'll work out, one to keep your eye on, perhaps, if you're a fan of any of these players or the org. And then W7M. So this is probably the other very exciting one, and I think it's actually the last player roster change. I don't think there's anything on Furia or Double O Nation. So yeah, let's talk about it. Julio in, GDN out. So I think GDN and Herds were the 2 sort of legacy players left on this roster. Keys, JV, and Volps, fairly new additions, but they're getting sort of seasoned as far as this org goes now, and some of the fiercest players. And I mean, yeah, you might call this the second best team in LATAM at the moment. They got first place in both regular stages, and they got second place in both Copa Elite 6s, making them the second seed for both majors. They did poorly in Charlotte. Of course, they had to play online. It was their first major. A lot of factors. They didn't make it out of a tough group, and then they made it to the semifinals, right, in Berlin, only losing out to FaZe Clan. So yeah, definitely a really strong team, and perhaps GDN was the weak link. He was their hard support IGL, and I'm assuming Julio will fill in that role, but I guess maybe we'll see things shift around a little bit, but I think it makes the most sense. Julio coming over from Ninjas in Pajamas, but not directly. He's been off the roster for a little bit. Last stage he was coaching Furia, and so yeah, definitely a really exciting pickup. Let's see if Julio can play like he hasn't skipped a beat, and see if he is the final puzzle piece that W7 needs to become the best team in the world, because they've been sort of knocking down that door. I think people have been thinking, going into each major that they had a pretty solid shot to win it, and again, didn't do too well in Charlotte, but they did much better in Berlin, and if that massive ascendancy continues, it's entirely possible that they will be winning the next major, which I think is in APAC, right? I don't know if the exact location has been announced, but yeah, so Julio in for GDN on W7M, big change, exciting change. And then again, Furia, Double O Nation, I don't think any changes. Here are the rosters. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess I'll just show you guys the full thing. I guess I can't actually show it all at the same time because I'm zoomed in a little bit, but okay, yeah. GDN out, Yechts onto Tropic House, Cons onto Tropic House, the 4 members from INTZ joining Tropic House, and or 4 of them, and then of course Vitz over to the coaching role. Hellraiser going from analyst on INTZ over to coach / analyst on Tropic House, so just moving over with the org change. Lagonis going from Team 1 over to Liquid here. PSK retiring. Julio going from the coach of Furia to nothing, and then from nothing to W7M, and then we have some how would you call it, staff additions to Team 1. So their head coach is going to the head of esports for the org, and then they're picking up an analyst, they're picking up a coach. So perhaps this will help them, strategically and mentally and all this stuff. And then of course the player roster change with Lobin coming in as the replacement for Lagonis. And yeah, that's everything, and we'll see how things play out. I mean, I guess I would expect FaZe Clan to make top 4 again. It was pretty close last stage. They had to beat Liquid in that very last day to make it. And they did make it, so I would expect to come back from Liquid. I'd love to see Lagonis at another major, especially with this roster. It seemed like such a good roster. Other teams that might make it, MIBR always has a chance. They just never seem to make it, but Ninjas Pajamas, W7M, Furia. So I would imagine like 4 of these 5 teams will end up in the top 4, and then play in Copa Elite 6, and then have roughly a 100% chance to make it out of Copa Elite 6, because only Brazilian teams ever do. But I guess we'll see. Double O Nation not making any changes. The org change for INTZ to Tropic House, maybe that'll help them out. Black Dragon sticking with their roster, MIBR sticking, and Team 1 with the roster change and the addition to the staff. Maybe that'll pan out well for them. But, you know, one more time, it seems like these are the 5 most likely teams to be going to the next major and representing Brazil and LATAM. And okay, so that's going to do it for the video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, corrections, suggestions, any of that stuff, do feel free to leave it below. Also, a like and a subscription would be appreciated, and I will catch you guys in the next video.